Hello and welcome to the Captain's Table, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley, your humble host and Star Citizen, humble host and space bartender here at the AstroPub, your space bar at the end of Twitch. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We got a good one for you. How y'all doing today? Welcome to the Captain's Table. This is a podcast where we talk to people from Star Citizen. I am just not doing words today well. Talk to people from the Star Citizen universe about Star Citizen just in general. Sometimes we have specific topics. Sometimes we have general news discussions. But today we've got a very specific topic. But before we get into that, I'm going to introduce our two guests. I'll start with the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. The Few. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? And where can they find you?
Hey, so I've been a long time backer. Started backing in the Kickstarter days, 2012. Fell in love with the idea of the game. Been following it through its inception and all the way to today. Started streaming like 2017, I think, for a little while there, and just have had a blast. Fell in love with the community. Mostly produce content that is not typical of gameplay, just kind of goofing off, trying to get to the center of moons, Grey Cat Sumo-y kind of like games, rock climbing with various drivable vehicles, just like anything that I find kind of fascinating, just goofing off mostly. And I took a break from streaming for a while, for maybe about 2-something years, and I'm kind of coming back casually. Especially since, we're starting to get back for community events, things like that, like Citizen Con starting back up again. So for me, a lot of being involved in the community is amplified by being able to see people in person. And so when that kind of went away, I kind of had lost some interest in producing content. But I'm having fun getting back into it, getting my feet wet, and excited to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming back on. Yeah, Luke's been on a couple times here and there. We've actually gone golfing together and drinking in the past. So he's in one of the older generations who's come back to the light of Star Citizen like a moth. But it's good to have you back. When Luke said, "Hey, can I come back?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure.
Welcome back."
So. Then we're going to have Mr. Nightcop. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
So I'm Nightcop, and I stream on very rare occasions these days. I just had to change kind of in the job scenario, so I haven't streamed much lately. Mainly what I still do is co-host Tree's podcast, Armchair Admirals and Generals, for stackup.org. If you guys haven't checked that out, please do. It's basically him, myself, and then also Tira Kell, and we have actually some new cycling guests coming through. Like most recently, we had Sergeant Tickles. Yep, that's his real handle, guys. Sergeant Tickles. Come online and discuss components and stuff like that, and what we wanted to see out of Star Citizen, and basically how it relates to our respective military backgrounds. That's kind of what I do for the most part. I bring 16 years of nuclear Navy experience on submarines to that podcast, and talk about how it relates to Star Citizen systems. And it's a lot of fun. Come check us out.
Yeah, nice. I caught that show with you and Sergeant Tickles.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Sergeant Tickles and I, of course, used to be on a show together a long time ago. But he's a cool guy.
Yeah,
he's a great guy. Very gentle. Very gentle.
Yep.
For those of you wondering, that's Armchair Generals and Admirals is where you're going to go.
You're so close. It's Armchair Admirals in general.
Admirals
before Generals. Okay. It's important to me that everybody understands that. And Tira Kell will know why I said that later.
I come from, my wife is a Navy family, so I always like to point out that my wife is also hardcore, like PC first. She's always been like that. I was the filthy casual console gamer that my wife converted me to the PC gaming side. But I forced her to play Halo on the console, because at the time the original Halo wasn't available on PC. And I kept hearing her scream, "Save me!" when she was playing. I looked over and she was like, "Save me, meat shields!" And she was using the Marines as meat shields. She was just like, I'm like, "You are the most Navy brat I have ever seen." She's like, "Well, that's what their job is. Their job is to jump in front of the bullets so I don't get hit, right?" So
Master Chief above all, guys. Master Chief above all.
He's technically Navy, isn't he? So that makes sense.
That's his rank.
Yeah.
That's his Navy rank.
Yeah. So
a lot of people just don't know that. That's his rank. It's the highest enlisted rank in the Navy, guys. It's legitimate.
Isn't there a higher one for enlisted? That's like the Master Chief of the Navy.
One.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy. There's only one of them.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, because I know there's like the Master Sergeant of something like that of the Army, similar. Like there's like a highest ranked.
Yeah. Only one guy, and it's a very political position.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Joint Chiefs almost in terms of like it's a political appointed position rather than being a promoted one, right?
Yeah. That's actually why my job changed. I'm going after that Master Chief rank.
Nice.
I'm currently a Senior Chief right now. Trying to get Master Chief hopefully like next year or the year after that or the year after that. We'll see. And then I can be titled like a Halo character.
There we go.
That's a win. That's a win for a gamer in the Navy, I feel like.
So if you when you get Master Chief rank, I'm just going to call you the Master Chief when you come on. Night Cobb, the Master Chief. So so everyone will have to refer to you as the Master Chief. I'm going to change your name on my Discord as the Master Chief, so that'll work.
I feel like if you get the Master Chief, you should be able to file like a name change on Twitch and be like, I get this. Whoever has it now gets removed.
I haven't looked, but I'm sure there's at least one or two guys using Master Chief on Twitch. Although I don't know, it's probably like a point of pride. I'm probably one of the first like senior enlisted gamers that's like okay with putting themselves out on the internet. So,
as that? There we go.
Yeah, I don't know. Some of them are like, "What is this Twitch? I don't understand it." Seems kind of like nonsense to me.
I remember you told me because we used a clip of you kind of talking about the Polaris, and I said like a real submariner describes it. And you said multiple people of you knew who were like, "Hey, I saw you on YouTube."
Yeah,
so
I caught a lot of shit about that.
I'm sorry, it's my fault.
A lot of shit.
I used the. I used the click. I used the clickbait that caused people to click.
It worked. It worked, because of course, what kind of videos do submarine guys watch? Videos about submarines. So it's just like it popped up in a lot of their feeds because of the title and stuff. And then a couple guys that knew me, because we joke around in the Navy, like the longer you stay in, the smaller your world gets.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like people that I had served with like 4 tours ago, 4 commands ago, and they're like hitting me up on Facebook Messenger, man, like, dude, I saw a short of a video of you on the internet talking about, I think, spaceships and submarines. What is that all about?
What is this?
Yeah. Are you still in? And I was like, yeah, I'm still in. We caught up. It was kind of fun. And they're like, so you like do YouTube and stuff? Yeah, I do. I stalk a few content creators on this really niche space game too. Anyway, how you been? Good. Glad to hear it. How are the kids? Just moving on.
I will make sure to do that in the future, and if so, I'll put the top comment and something about go Navy or something like that. Maybe I can get some cute to that. The Army. I will also add that the Army Navy game is very hot in our household because my family's all Army, so the clashes happen a lot. And my cousin went to West Point and everything like that. So
man,
yeah. So
that must suck for him. Every time he has to watch that game. Tell him I'm sorry. I know it's got to be rough. I feel bad. Not really bad, just fake bad.
Just fake bad.
You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean. But it's funny. I think he's going to kill me for this, but he's actually he's no longer he's still in the service, but he is a professor in West Point now. So like he teaches.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah. So pretty cool.
Does
Anyways,
he teach history?
He's an engineer, so he teaches. I think engineering. I don't know what level of engineering, but so. So with that all being said, we're going to talk about something completely different. We're going to be talking about reputation. No, it's all right. We talked about a bunch of other stuff beforehand. We talked about like the we talked about nuclear power and fission energy, and we talked about the generations of Star Citizen content creators. So you got to come to see the pre shows on twitch.tv/TheAstroPub. But today we're going to be talking about reputation, because this was in the monthly report. I'm going to read it directly, because I think it's an important thing to get the context. Last month, the mission features team said that they created a technical design document for the system that governs the player reputations with in-game orgs, such as Crusader Industries or Ninetales. This relates to things that players can do outside of missions, such as killing rival NPCs. So that caught Nightcob's attention when he kind of brought it up, and I started reading it. I'm like, wow, that's actually a pretty good thing, because for those of you who don't know, I'm a big evangelist when it comes to reputation as a whole and how it's super important into the verse. So to get this discussion about reputation and its importance and its value and where is it going, I want to start us off with there's just the general idea of what y'all have about how reputation works now. So I'll start with you, Nightcob. What do you think are the good points and bad points of how reputation is used in game for right now?
I think for right now, the things that are good are, I'm going to caveat this.
Okay.
The ability to unlock slightly more complex missions at higher ranks. But it is like hard to see that in a lot of ways, because you can make the argument that complexity with higher scaled missions or higher tiered missions is really not all that much more complex. But the example I would give is like, all right, you talk about delivery missions. Okay, base level, rep 0, rep 1, all you start off with is you pick up a box, you take it somewhere, you drop the box off, and it really doesn't get much more complex than that. Whereas, you get to the higher tier delivery missions, and all of a sudden it's, okay, go into this bunker where there could be, a gang who would take issue, with you taking the box from that bunker, or at the very least are going to potentially stumble upon you while you're taking box or boxes from the bunker and then delivering them. So there is a slight uptick in complexity with regards to rank in a given reputation. I like that so far. I have mixed feelings about the pay scale. It's not necessarily a bad thing to go up in pay for, a change in complexity. Mm-hmm. I think it needs to be a little bit more in depth, and I think it needs to be balanced by some other things, but that's going to be part of the topic later. So that's about it. That's about all I like for the reputation system right now. And
so you like that it has more complexity as you go up, but you don't like the fact that the pay scale doesn't really work well for it, or isn't really commiserate with the complexity and stuff that.
I mean, if we're going to get into the pay scale, I'll just be honest, that I don't understand it at all.
You don't understand?
It's all over the place. No, it's just all over the place. It doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Okay.
We can get more into that later.
Yeah. So just more the basic, like current, you like the complexity, but you don't understand how the pay scale functions is what you don't like about it.
I think it's more that they don't understand the pay scale and what should be done.
It's too random.
Or it is. Yeah. I mean, just an example, right? I mean, they've dialed it in over the years, but sometimes it's just a matter of, is there substantial risk? No? Okay. What's the time investment? Are those things factored into what it costs to execute a task? When you do, I'm going to give an example of something here. Maybe the retrieval op missions. Mm-hmm. Retrieval op missions. You go down to Whistler's Crypt, where there's probably 13 or 14 Ninetales, and you have to steal 3 boxes from them. By the way, Cutlass Black is incredibly likely to come out of nowhere, and its turret is probably going to destroy your ship unless you were very careful about where you parked it, behind some cover. And as a result, you've got a substantial risk. What are we going to pay you for this? That's probably going to take you on average about 30 to 45 minutes to complete. And there's a high likelihood of you dying depending on the server FPS. We're going to pay you 10K, maybe 4. I don't know, something like that. That doesn't make sense to me in terms of a pay scale. So that's the idea that I have behind it.
I get that. Yeah. Okay. A few. Same question. What do you like and dislike about the current implementation of reputation?
Like and dislike good. Okay, cool. Because I don't like a lot about the current implementation. Now, granted, I haven't played a lot recently, so I'm mostly going off of older like understandings. But I've done some research. I played a little bit, and it doesn't seem to have changed too much. And I guess currently the system feels very one-dimensional. Of course, like it's very much like accept missions, like Nightcob was saying, and then as you accept missions and you build reputation, you get access to better missions and things like that. And that makes sense to me. But it feels a little too explicit, if you know what I mean. It doesn't feel immersive in kind of like a reputational system.
Too gamey.
Yeah, too gamey, too kind of just like step through a like very predictable like order of events. If I build reputation with a particular group doing certain types of missions, my experience will be almost identical to every single other person's experience building that reputation. There's no like added extra dimensional flavor of my other reputations potentially, or like I don't know. At least this my experience has been. So yeah, so I think what I like about it, I guess, is that it exists. And it does add some extra layer to the game. But sometimes it feels more like a gate to content than it is really content itself. And I feel like if reputation is done right and done well, it'll feel like content, right? Like you'll be like walking through a room and there'll be like nine tails in the room. And if you don't have a good reputation, they might ignore you. If you have a bad reputation with them, they might hate you. If you have a good reputation, they might be like, hey, come over here and hang out. I don't know. You know what I mean? There's a, the universe.
Well, let's buy you a drink, kind of thing, right?
Yeah. The universe doesn't exactly quite feel alive yet with the reputation system. And I think I've heard that there's future ideas on how they're going to implement those things and fix that problem. But under its current implementation, it doesn't really feel like a reputation system so much as a very simplistic leveling system to get missions. I don't know if that makes sense.
Like a simple progress system, like a progression system. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't even call it a reputation system really at the moment, I feel like.
Okay. So the next question is more gonna, and I'll ask you this one first for you, then you, Nightcob, is more interested on terms of like going forward. What would you like to see? What would you like to see going forward for, like, say, before now and to the end of this year? What would you like to see in terms of improvements to the reputation system? Something you believe could happen between, it's now July and December of 2023.
It could happen realistically. That's a hard question for me, considering I'm still trying to play catch up with everything.
Yeah.
But I would like to see more dimensionality in the sense of how reputation affects your gameplay. So beyond just getting missions, like your experience in the verse should be different in just everyday play. Right? Like, I mean, flying in certain parts of the universe, you should be less likely to get intercepted by pirates if you're like a Nine Tails high rep person, or like maybe there's more access to like certain types of special equipment, like people were mentioning, like maybe like you get a certain reputation with Nine Tails maybe, and all of a sudden they say, hey, by the way, there's this like store that nobody knows about, and you can go to it, and we have some cool gear at cool discounts because we pirate it, so it's like a little cheaper than other places, and some of that gear might be like super custom and not available maybe because it's like sketchy or maybe slightly illegal, and you can buy it there under market, black market. And if you do, though, maybe you get pulled over and scanned by like some sort of security force, maybe you'll get in trouble for having it, but you get access because your reputation is at a certain level with that group. Or maybe if you have a high reputation with security forces or the lawful side, maybe you get the same thing. Maybe you get access to like a cool like law enforcement only locker like thing where you get like a little more advanced weapons or access or things that you might not get as a civilian because they know you're helping bounty hunt or do work. I think that kind of extra layer of dimensionality, I think beyond just better missions and more money, I think would be really, really cool.
Okay. Nightcob, your what do you think you can expect? What would you like to see between now and the end of this year in terms of like reputation improvements?
All right. I'll start with the expect part.
Okay.
I don't expect, I don't expect a lot, to be perfectly honest. Based on we read it in the monthly report, right? But they were very clear that was just a design document drafted. So they're not even in the prototype phase of getting us to the point where reputation org starts to really matter in terms of how the orgs themselves interact with us. So I don't see that coming for a while, potentially. Maybe next year. with Pyro around like, CitizenCon. Wait, next 2 years from now
2 years.
with Pyro around Citizen. Yeah, sorry, 2
Okay.
years. But I'm sorry, that's a joke for the most part, guys. At least I really hope it is.
Yeah.
We'll see. In terms of what I would hope for by the end of this year, what they could do within their current system that I think is easy and I think would make a huge difference. They got those new colonial outposts coming in, right? And you've already got derelict outposts. I want to stop doing missions for the same and generating rep for the same, 6 companies. You got the 4, corporations, and then you've got UE and pretty much Ninetales, and that's it. I would love to get more diversification on rep. You can do it within the current system, literally just, put another company. And I think it would be really cool if like Clark Defense Systems gave me a contract where it's like, hey, and they've got, the new consignment missions coming out. And I think with some of the missions that are coming out, it seems viable to maybe it's a little bit more story angled where it's like, hey, Clark Defense Systems sent me, a mission where Ninetales stole like, a full case of a bunch of armor prototypes. And they've got it at this derelict outpost. It's a pirate base. It looks pirate basey enough, or a colonial outpost, you pick. It looks gamified enough that I could believe going there and taking down pirates in there and then retrieving the package, bringing it back. Then now you're using the modular mission system, which I think is actually closer than Pyro and, full reputation via orgs. That would be a really dynamic, I think, improvement that still works within the same system. And then, God, if they could just attach it to, like, if I built up enough rep, maybe they gave me like a special skinned Clark Defense Systems heavy armor or medium armor. Maybe I don't even care if it's light armor at rank 1, medium armor at rank 2, heavy armor at rank 3. That would be a much better use, guys, of armor skins if you could somehow integrate that in the system. And even if it's just like, maybe it just opens up, that in the shops that I can buy it. I know that's reputation gates also coming into play, but maybe that's a good way to start. Just light. Just give us the skin of a cool, CDF armor or something like that. You already did it once with the Xenothreat. You get the CDF armor, at least some pieces of it, delivered to you. But that'd be some cool stuff that they could do before the end of the year. I think that would have a huge impact, a really nice one too. So
okay, yeah, I completely agree. I'm a big fan of I have my CDF armor, and I never like if it's an event or something, I'll put it on, and I just don't want to lose it. But it's one of those. Like, if Xenothreat happens and I'm doing it, I'm going to throw on that CDF armor. Why? Because I earned it. I earned it fighting the Xenothreat. I'm going to wear it. So that kind of a good segue into the next section, because a lot of people, you'll hear a lot of content creators and a lot of people in the community in general say that they really would like rep-gated items. So like specific events that you could earn or specific things you could earn through reputation with specific companies or specific locations. And CIG's even talked about the idea of rep-gating full-blown, I'm trying to think of this, like full-blown like systems. So like exclusive like torpedoes or, specific like no A rank equipment being available in stores. You have to earn it through reputation stuff. These are ideas that CIG has floated. Do you still like that idea? And like, to what degree do you think is too much of using rep-gated access to certain things? And I'll start with you on that one, Night Cobb.
He's not a basset hound, by the way. My dog is a Cavalier Spaniel. And he wanted on the bed, and his nails, I have hardwood floors, his nails were just clicking. It was driving me insane. So that's why I just bailed and put him up on the bed, because that's where he wanted to be. I did not put him into space. He's fine. He's fine. He's spoiled. He wants to be in the bed. All right. So reputation gates. You talked about the components. I think that's huge. I talked about it actually on Tree's podcast at length. I think if it's B or A, it needs to come off the shelves.
Okay.
And I think the primary way you should get that is either loot or reputation gated. and again, this goes back to like, this is why I want other manufacturers to get in the game in terms of like companies that give you missions. I think they are approaching that state of modularity with the missions, based on what we see also coming up, because they've showed us video, the consignment missions and all that kind of stuff. I think we're at the point now where we can really make a good case for not just like armor manufacturers, but like ships, weapon manufacturers, and everything like that, saying, hey, special research project. These guys have a bunch of our gear. We want it back. Go take it from them. And I think even you could drive like space combat missions where it's like, yeah, they're probably using that gear. This isn't a bounty hunt. Bounty hunt means you got to bring them back alive, with the whole regen system. This is straight mercenary action. We're sending you out there, engage in space combat, try and soft def them if you can. Or, God, what a great gameplay it would be to actually have a reason to use distortions to like take maybe some of those A-class military or civilian quantum drives back off of them, deliver them, and then they say, all right, you can, at a certain point, you do this long enough for us, we'll either sell them to you or we'll let you keep some of them as loot or whatever. Something like that. I think that's feasible. And I think that's feasible a lot sooner than, some of the other systems to come online, especially with the mission feature team doing such a good job with like modularity of missions and stuff. They seem to be cranking them out a lot faster. I don't want to say they're at Montreal level, but they're getting there.
Well, it's also very nice that the mission feature team, both of them, both the leads of mission feature team are very public facing. Both, I forgot his name. I'm forgetting, blanking on both of those names. It's Elliot and
Lars, I want to say.
No, that sounds right.
It's not Lars. I can't remember.
He was the first. I'll say this: he's the first CIG employee who ever reached out to me in a DM, basically, "Hey, thanks for pointing that out to me." At one point, I was like, "What? I didn't know that you watched me," kind of thing. Luke Presley. So both of them are very, and I guess and Lars as well. Yeah, they're all of them are very public facing, and they're very engaging with the community, and they watch the community, and they watch us play, and they see our frustrations. So if you're watching, hello, you probably are, because you see the title at some point. But yes, hello, and I think that adds a lot to feel. It feels like they're getting a lot of stuff done, because I think they're taking a lot of feedback and then like have a turnaround to like spit it out a lot faster as a result. So. But the few, your same question to you. What do you think is the limit? Do you think there's going to be too much options where you like kind of restrict too many things via reputation gating, or do you think it's like sky's the limit? Do you want to see only high class materials being like not being able to be purchased, or specific weapons, anything like that?
Yeah. So I don't know to what like degree explicitly you talk about gating, but I think any game in general, I feel like to be successful should create gameplay loops that are fun to play, with rewards that are unique and distinct, that allow people to feel like they've earned something through that fun gameplay, right? So I think that if anybody can come into the game and buy whatever they want from the shop, and everything they can get from gameplay loops is redundant, then I think it takes away a significant component of the value of a computer game, or the fun that you might have playing it. So yes, I do think that we should have rep or gameplay loop kind of like gated items. Should they be like hard gated, like, oh, he has that uniform, therefore he must have done that one mission that I also did? No, I don't think so. I think there's forcing functions that you could say, there's loot and or things in the game that are spawned into the game through NPCs, of course, or through some sort of like generation. But once a person has it, of course, they can sell it, they can trade it, and it gets into kind of that the verse in some form or fashion. I think, going back to what I was talking about, if you have an inn with a Nine Tails or something, you should have some sort of black market store where you can pick up things that might not be as available to the general purpose. And maybe you can buy those things from the store and sell them yourself. So other people who don't have rep with Nine Tails can still get them, but they're not available from an NPC in a store. You have to like make friends in the community, or pirate a ship of someone who's like hauling some of that, or steal it off of someone's dead body. I do think, maybe there's mods and stuff, like maybe there's like considered banned tech. Maybe there's like some stealth tech that the Hurston security doesn't allow in their system that you can't buy from certain like or get or modify through legal means. And so maybe you go to these like these special mechanics or people that you build rep with, or after a mission you've made friends with, and they can kind of like mod your gear or whatever into a very specific kind of direction, like maybe more stealthy than you're legally allowed to have. And I think those kind of things, just you shouldn't have to have the rep to get it, but having the rep should make it way easier to get. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I've actually bandied about the idea of like permits too. I don't know if I like the idea of permits, but I mean that I think that also solves, because somebody brought up a point in chat. I apologize, I didn't look at your name. Well, then if we have a reputation gated item, well, somebody can use their primary account to be able to, get the rep and stuff like that, maybe lawfully to get military grade A components as the example, and then shift that to their alt account pirate, who doesn't necessarily have the rep and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, well, don't get me wrong. That is definitely a potential consequence of people that don't want to engage in systems of gameplay and are just like looking to make life easy on themselves. That's fine. They want to spend the extra $45 for the alt account. I honestly don't care. Like, knock yourselves out. If that's how you want to gear up, an alt pirate account, it doesn't bother me really at all. I don't think it's that dramatic of an impact to the gameplay systems. But what would be interesting is if you also had a permit that allowed you to use that military grade A. So maybe that pirate player, works really hard, lowers his crime stat, comes into civilized space to do something, maybe to get one thing that he can't get on his primary or whatever. But then the UEE ship comes by, scans him, and is like, you're not rated to have a, class A stealth drive. That's a fine, or, it's a,
prison sentence.
You're going to jail, depending on the, so it's one of those things. It's like, I'm sure there are systems that can be put in place, and don't get me wrong, whatever system they put in place, I'm sure there's also a workaround.
The people will break it
for players. The people can pay extra real life money to work around it, and that's fine. I don't care. Like, if you want to pay extra real life money to have advantage in the game, I mean, I know they're trying to eliminate pay to win, but there's going to be some pay to win. We can't get around it. So,
well,
go for it.
I would say the one thing that I will say that a lot of people forget is that CIG can attach rep to anything and anyone. They've talked about how they could make chairs have reputation. So one of the things that a lot of people forget is guilt by association, where if you interact with another individual who has a lower rep, then you can also be tagged onto that rep as well. So if you have like an alt pirate account and you want to trade your super secret stuff with that alt pirate account, CIG may and probably will have a reputation hit for you, so that your super lawful goody two shoes good boy account will suddenly be like, hey, you've been sending money to Al Qaeda. Why are you doing that? You're now going to be punished for such an action. And so it might cause some problems for you for that main account as well. So there are ways that CIG said that you can get around it, but that's going to require money and time, like washing and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
I'm not so concerned about like the cheating aspect of things, because I mean, obviously, like there's people are smart. They're going to find ways to like get what they want out of a system.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, I hope CIG is just trying to create a game that's fun to play. And if you allow for too much kind of like loopholes or whatever, it devalues the game and the gameplay. And I think that a good rep system should always give you a rock, paper, scissors problem. You should never be able to just be like good at all three like things. There should always be a little bit of trade-off. You want to be really good with, the law enforcement, you're going to have to sacrifice your like rep with like the Nine Tails and vice versa. And I do like, Nightcobb, your idea around permitting for certain types of things, right? Like maybe in certain regions or zones, if you have a permit, you can carry certain gear that maybe you wouldn't otherwise be allowed to carry, that would be contraband or something. But that same kind of permit might not be useful in all regions of space, just that one region for that one like group that you have good rep with or something.
There's been a discussion. There's been a discussion in chat, and I'll answer this, and I'll let y'all answer this question as well, because this is something that I've been fairly consistent about since I heard CIG's plans, general ideas for reputation. It made me feel a lot better about some of the situations in Star Citizen, because people are banning about in chat. Well, pay to win's going to happen in Star Citizen. Pay is going to happen in Star Citizen. And I've always believed, and I still believe, that reputation is a great solution for that problem, because reputation is a way of restricting movement or earning money or many other different aspects of the game which you can't pay real money for. And as you said, they want to make a video game that's fun. And the most fun I've had in Star Citizen is doing a zero to hero account. And if they can simulate that with the kind of professions or the ships that you want to do, then I think it'll do pretty well. People like, well, what if you spent $1,000 on an Idris or a Javelin? It's like, cool. You still need people, money, equipment, fuel. You need all these things to be able to function, to run those ships. And reputation is a great way of kind of slowing a lot of that down, because you're not going to come right out the gate with an Idris and be like, hey, I can take missions that will pay for this Idris to function. And I think there's a tool that CIG has right there with reputation to be able to change that, to make it more important, because I think it's almost like a secondary currency. It's the real currency that you will have to use and spend in Star Citizen to be able to experience the game that you want to experience. But it's kind of my own thought about it. Nightcop,
no, 100% agree.
Nightcop, what do you think about the idea of using reputation as kind of a secondary currency?
I think it's great. I love the idea. I think reputation should easily be the second form of currency. And my argument would be, because unfortunately the only progression we have in game really is currency.
Yeah.
And then the ability to buy ships. Like, there is some reputation progression, but it yields very little except the ability to earn more AUEC. So, it's really just back to currency. And I want reputation to, unlock advantage, in situational type events, like kind of like what you talked about earlier. Like, I think it'd be great if I'm a bounty hunter and I have the advantage of, being able to carry a taser, past the customs area in Lorville to catch up with a guy who decided to, land a ship there and go buy, Hurston Dynamics laser repeater, and I get him at the shop, and instead of shooting me on sight when I tase the guy, security's like, he's a lawful bounty hunter. He's actually a pretty highly respected one. Yeah. So he's not going to be somebody we trifle with in that location. That's a big deal. That's reputation paying an advantage, against a potential target. And
it's a cool story too.
A new way. Yeah, exactly. Right. And it creates a new way for me to solve a problem as opposed to, I got to wait for that guy in, dead space or whatever, or, change my tactics up to something else. So I look for reputation as a way of unlocking that style of gameplay. That's progression, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And you talked about, obviously, like, having reputation with certain gangs in Pyro.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's just an ability to, maybe if I'm being chased by a rival gang, I get into space where it's controlled by the other gang, and then all of a sudden I've got reinforcements on my side.
Yeah.
That's, again, creative solutions to problems that are gained through meaningful progression. I want that more than anything from reputation.
Yeah.
And I think that would be the bigger currency, to be perfectly honest.
I honestly think that it would be like more important than like currency. I mean, like you say, secondary currency, honestly, reputation is more of like primary currency, I think it could be as the game evolves. And I think that one thing that maybe I think everyone realizes, but the biggest currency in the game is manpower, honestly, in my mind. Like, we all have all these ships, and they're oftentimes multi-crew, and you obviously have friends you can jump in, you can play together. But if you're trying to play, you want to fly a bigger ship, you're going to need NPCs. You're going to want NPCs, especially if you have javelins and Idrises and other types of ships. And I think that rep is how are you going to get the really good security officers? How are you going to get the really good pirates to NPC with you on your ships? Reputation, honestly, in my mind, is like in real life as well as probably in the game, like nobody's going to want to serve for you on your ship or be a part of your crew if you don't have the reputation that they are going to feel is needed, right? So I think if you have a higher rep as a pirate or with Ninetales or higher rep with security forces of some kind, you're going to get better and better NPCs who you can hire potentially to serve with you on your crew, I would hope, and things like that. So honestly, I think it's a bigger currency than all the money in the world. You might not be able to hire the Boba Fett of bounty hunters to come hang out with you.
Yeah,
in the game.
I think this brings up a good point as well. It's like people will say, "Oh, well, I can just pull out my wallet and pay for NPC crew," but NPCs will have standards. All right, they're professionals, but so you'll only be able to get some of the bare basic bones ones, which may not do you as well, versus somebody who's more advanced. But that person requires you to have good reputation and good money. Or if you have a ship that's got a high reputation, like your ship is very, very well known, so everyone wants to be on that ship because it's got this reputation for doing all these crazy things. So,
and that's a real thing. Like even 16 years in the Navy, like trust me, there are people that still serve, that would be like, they could call me up and be like, "Hey, I'm going to be captain of this boat. I need you to fill a slot and serve with me." And I'd be like, "Again? Yeah. Let me see what I got to do. I'm going to go talk to my chain of command." Because it's like, I respect that person so much. I know them by reputation or personally and stuff like that. Or, in some cases, it's like, if you're fighting out for orders of where to go, it's like, "Ooh, that boat's got a spot. I've heard really good things about that boat, like good chain of command, good reputation on that boat. Battle-y boat for like the last 3 years in a row, passing all their exams with flying colors, doing some good stuff, doing some good missions. I will happily go." That reputation really matters, and it works on the reverse too. It's like, you got bad rep, like people will dodge orders to you, and they will avoid the opportunity to serve on your ship. So I don't know, it's a real thing.
Yeah, I think it adds a little bit of realism too. Like Star Citizen's always about simulation and such, and I think it's not too difficult considering the NPC system they're building. But I do also think that you were right, Night Cobb, in looking at it. It's like they're just building the technical design documents. This isn't 2016 Star Citizen, so we're not looking at a design document that's like going to take 4 years to be made. It's probably going to be a little bit faster, but I don't know if we're going to see a lot of this year necessarily. But it's definitely something that they're looking into, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of it. But I think with that, we'll kind of wrap up this discussion, move on to the question and answer session. If you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, thank you for watching. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. And of course, I want to hear your thoughts down below on reputation, how important it is, how invaluable it is. Do you think that we're going to see more kind of advancements for it this year? And come join us live, twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, youtube.com/TheAstroPubLive at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, where I bring on Saturdays to bring people on and talk about Star Citizen stuff. Thank you to Night Cobb and The Few. Make sure you check out Armchair Admirals and Generals. And, of course, twitch.tv/The Few to catch up. When do you have a set number of days? You just stream on days that are The Few?
I've been doing Sundays because they tend to be a day that I have time. And then sometimes Wednesdays and here and there. But definitely I'll be streaming tomorrow, so
Sundays and Wednesdays, check out twitch.tv/The Few. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.
Still here. Paul's still here.
I'm still here.
I'm
still here.
We can't. Are you taking us with you to the bathroom?
Yes, we're taking the whole. Yes, because why do you think they call me Golden Shower Shelley? That's how that works.
Oh, Paul.
The story is I did it twice. All right. I stupidly had a wireless headset and with headphones or a mic on it, and I left and managed to pee on stream twice. It was not a smart move on my part.
Fool us once, Paul.
Yeah, that's why I don't. That's why I don't use wireless headphones
anymore.
Shame on
all of us in
for that reason. I use that. I don't use headphones for that same reason. It's like that. It was like 6 years ago now, but people still remember it. So
yeah. Well, now you've got the advantage of most of the time when you walk away and go on a break, they just spam your
they
sound bites.
They spam
and
the sound bites.
There's no way they would even hear it.
That's I'm gonna copium and say that's the reason why, because they don't want to hear me peeing. They're just spamming us, and no one has to hear me peeing.
It's strategic.
I'll be right back, chat. But feel free to ask questions, and we'll get into that. All right, right back.
Yeah. and you guys were active chat. It's funny. I saw it sparked a debate, and it's like a common debate in Star Citizen about the whole, and we actually, Paul and I talked before on one of his streams when we were talking about topics this weekend of, the drama around the recent gear kits. Have you heard about this, by the way?
Yeah, I was reading about that more.
Oh my
God. Was
God.
talking about it as well.
Yep. Well, it's a big thing because, it just all relates back into the idea of these macro transactions, buying big ships and stuff like that. And, it's the same arguments everywhere I go, every Discord I'm in, every Star Citizen channel when it gets brought up. It's about that whole, are you paying for an advantage? Because we have all these mobile games and all that kind of stuff where, you buy the top tier characters, and then you advance your progression at a rate that puts you ahead of the game and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And did we do the same thing with Star Citizen? Everybody's concerned about that.
I think it's just a perception thing, though. In this case,
it is.
All right.
Yeah,
I am back.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think a starter kit is going to give you an advantage. It does create a perception of purchase, purchasing gameplay, but I don't think it's not going to give you like a competitive PvP advantage if that's what people are thinking. So,
yeah.
I think also it's important to note that a lot of stuff when dealing with ships and stuff like that is that a lot of people think, oh, well, if two people of equal skill are doing one-on-one and one has an Aurora, one has a Hornet, I'm like, what the fuck? I've never encountered that situation in my entirety of Star Citizen outside of Arena Commander. When you get to the point of getting so detailed about this very specific situation, it's like, that's not going to happen. That's such an edge case that 1 out of 1,000 times or a million times that'll actually happen. No one does those sorts of things. I
can tell you sorry, go for it.
No, I was just saying that's the point is you're never going to stop well, some people have an advantage. It's but if we get to a point where you're so detailed, then yes, they'll have a slight advantage. They'll be that's pay to win. It's then every single video game in the history of video games is pay to win.
To a degree, yeah.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I'm a little bit of an expert on this because I probably backed this game more than almost anybody in chat. I'm close to 40 grand, over the course of some number of years, and some of that I gave back obviously through giveaways and things like that. But my point is I have a significant amount of investment in this game, and I have always call it pay to lose because I get my ass wiped every time I play. No, I can't kill anybody. I can't beat anybody. Yeah. I am one of the worst, one of the worst players in Star Citizen, and all the money I put in has not given me much of an advantage. I can tell you that. So.
All right, so let's move on to the question and answers. Let me kind of make sure I hit this real quick. I'm just trying to put a little marker here so I can.
While you're getting set up, I actually got to step away to take care of a dog issue real quick. I'll be back.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. I've played games where the content was actually blocked by guilds who bought gold to get the best gear. Regular players virtually had no chance in getting progress because of it. That's certainly pay to win. I mean, I'm not saying that pay to win doesn't exist. I'm just saying that I'm saying that's the stuff that's people claim Star Citizen is pay to win is so niche. It's it might happen, but I also hear people going well, what's going to happen if a large group buys a bunch of ships and they go into an uninhabited area and they control it? It's okay, that's gameplay though. What happens if 6 months from now, 6 months afterwards, another group buys everything in game and then does the same thing? It's it's at a certain point, it's okay, that's the game. That's the point of the game. So, but then I've also legitimately met people who think that because they paid $60, they're entitled to the entirety of the game experience for all of that. And I'm that's not how games work, my dude.
Honestly, you're cheating yourself if you're doing that as well. It's the game is the playing to fun gameplay loops with rewards. And so if you just want to give them a whole bunch of money and then have everything and then not have to play the gameplay loops, what are you doing? Why are you backing the game at that point?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the skill issue answer. It's like that's a skill issue. It's like yeah. I mean, there's other things there, kidda. Like I understand people's comments of like I want to be able to play the game, and this is a certain thing I want to do, and I don't want to have to be blocked for it. But like even in single player games, there's going to be some issues that you're going to have to be able to deal with it. All right, let's just roll into the question and answer session. Wait for Nightcub to come back.
We'll answer on Nightcob's behalf. So anything we say is
officially
approved. Yeah, officially Nightcob's opinion.
All right, welcome to the question and answer session with Nightcob and the Few. Nightcob stepped away for a few minutes, so when he comes back, he'll kind of jump up on this. But let's get started with a couple questions. We have 7 questions asked by chat so far. The first question is from Canaanite 2, who asks, with the various rep systems and punishments for griefing, would Starfield be a better choice for RPing a space asshole with better rewards?
I don't. So Nightcob's opinion is this game.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know how hard life will be in Starfield if you want to go with like the more pirate kind of route, the more I'm going to kill you because I can route, because we don't know what Starfield is. Like we know what Starfield is, but we don't like. I couldn't tell you that Starfield would be better to role play a pirate because I don't know. I don't have Starfield as an example to play. It could be. It could not be. Go ahead, Few.
Oh, I was going to say that also, like, I believe the intention in Star Citizen is to be like 90% NPC, 10% player, kind of like fill out, I think. And I thought the intention was also not to necessarily be able to tell who is a human and who is an NPC. Right now, obviously, it's quite obvious because of the quality of the NPCs and whatnot. But I don't particularly see one, like, if you interact in Star Citizen long term and you want to play a pirate, you want to be a dick to like everyone in the game, odds are you'll mostly be like probably doing it to NPCs. So I wouldn't think of it as much different than playing a single player game in that sense. But yeah,
and that's another way of putting it as well, is that like right now, if you're a pirate, the only real things you can pirate are other players. There are ways you can pirate other NPCs, but it's not as lucrative or as fun. But
I think it mostly consists of hijacking them on the push trolleys.
Yes.
And then putting them in weird places.
Put them in weird places.
I went to Evers Harbor, and the dude from New Deal was hanging out in the lobby. It was it's like, would you like to buy a ship? It's like, wait, what are you doing here? You don't go here. How'd you get here? And then, of course, you see the nearby weapon of mass destruction in the form of a push trolley.
Push trolleys.
Right outside the burrito bar, and you're like, I know how you got here.
Well, like,
impressive.
The latest Squadron 42 month report talks about how they've completely overhauled the NPC combat system. So, like, NPCs in space doing space combat have a brand new system. And they've said back many times that there's no way they can introduce the new AI systems that they developed for Squadron 42 into Star Citizen until the game can handle it. And everyone has seen enough T-posing NPCs and NPCs on chairs and derpy NPCs and bunker missions to know that the back end is just currently not able to do it. And we've also seen when you do have a 30 FPS that you have Terminators running around killing you in places, or being able to like outfly you and kill you instantly. So we know that there definitely needs to do some balance, and there's definitely needs to be a new system added. But until they can get that consistent frame rate for servers to function, like, there's no reason to add that. And we really have to wait until that comes into the game before we can start to see like the piracy become more of a, like, the people you're going to be fucking with are mostly just NPCs at that point. And
I know you and I have talked about this real quick, Paul, but I want to put it out in the wild one more time, and mainly in the vain hope that CIG hears this. I understand the whole server FPS, why we can't have more advanced AI things. CIG, if you're listening, for the love of God, if it's not too much of a strain, can you just give them like some wild lines?
Yes.
So that they talk. I don't care. They can T-pose while they say weird shit to me. It doesn't even make sense. It can be totally out of context conversations. Like If that's what the wild line was, yeah, give me a hug. As they aggressively say that to me as I walk by going to the ASOP terminal kiosk.
High five.
I'm I like that. I'm down with that because right now it feels so sterile that it's completely and utterly unnatural, like running around in a spaceport in a given area. Like, it doesn't have to be, again, it doesn't have to be good. You think about it, like, you think about the guy like New Deal. He's one of the only consistently, and some of the other shop members, like, I almost go into shops just so I can hear an NPC talk, especially the guy from Grimhex.
Yeah.
Like the guy from Grimhex, he's spouting out wild lines like every like 10 freaking seconds. I just need a few more of the NPCs that, are walking around, Captain Morganing on freaking chairs in the Lorville, spaceport. He's a spaceport. Like, if they just start talking.
Yeah.
And it does not have to be legit conversations. I don't care. They just need to start saying something. I think it would be such a dramatic improvement to the game right now.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be funny.
Yes. I am 100. You and I have talked about how like the biggest thing of immersion that Star Citizen's missing is AIs talking to each other. But I mean, even if you just stare at an NPC and they just, because we know that they stare back, of them just going, "What?" or "Can I help you?"
Something.
Or "Fuck off." Like one of those, just those three lines, if you stare at an NPC for too long, would be like, I'm one of those simpletons when, okay, this is going to date me as well a little bit. When Warcraft 2 came out and you could click on the different units. And if you clicked on them long enough, they would change they'd have a wild line, like a real, like a kind of an Easter egg underneath all of those things. I would do that every time because I was a kid and it was funny, but people would do that. People would intentionally stare at random NPCs to see what wild lines they had because that's content. It's funny,
Agreed.
I think that's easy. You could fix that now, CIG, and it would just make a world of difference to all of us.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, please.
You heard it from Nightcop. It's easy. Just kidding.
It's easy. Just do it.
I don't know. I'm not a programmer. It seems like it'd be easy. I'm not asking for pyro. I'm not asking for server meshing. Can they just start saying, and I'm not even asking you to fix them completely. I just want them to start randomly spouting some kind of dialogue so that they're not just a mannequin, or the silent horde, or, that you find at the bottom of the stairs in Microtech right now, where it's like 10 hospital workers and they're just standing there staring at you as you try and navigate through their little crowd. If one of them said anything.
Yeah. I think the idea is that it's not something that would require new technology for them to necessarily develop because they have that technology already, and if they could spend 3 to 6 months, a couple sprints putting that in there, even if they had to replace it, it would just add so much more value to the universe. The one thing I will say that's a counter is they've already done that for Squadron. It's already in there for Squadron, and they're testing it. But it's like, it's going to take 6 months for them to add it to Star Citizen. So,
I got it. It. Again, it's one of those things, though. It's like, man, if look, I'm not asking for the vaulting, the Star Edge or Mirror Citizen thing to be ported over. I don't know how difficult that is to port over from Squadron 42. And, Paul said it more than a few times. It's the same game, but it's just a matter of, this feels like an easy thing to do. Just make everybody like the Grim Hex guy. You can give them the same lines. I don't care.
Yeah.
At least they're talking now.
All right. Next question comes from Dow the Gamer, who asks, what kind of an offshoot of Reputation, but what were your thoughts on permits? We kind of talked a little bit about that, but I'll start with you, The Few. Do you like the idea of permits?
Can you hear me now? I think
yes.
My thing freaked out. Okay, good. Do I like the idea of permits? That was the thing that Nightcob mentioned, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I like things that create extra dimensionality in the gameplay based on the region of space you're in.
Oh, no.
Oh, I lost my video, but you can hear me, right?
Yeah, I got the video back. Yeah, I just reset it because it was desynced.
Cool, thanks.
So,
yeah, I don't know how to stream anymore. Like, technology's hard.
This is the captain's table. It's not a captain's table unless there's a technical difficulty. That's just how this works.
Hey,
so
at least I made it through the recording part. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of like, if I go to different parts of space, it should feel different for lots of reasons. It should feel different because space itself, different sun, different light, different planets, different fauna, and all those kind of things. But it should also be, either like sparsely populated or like, densely populated, lawful, unlawful. But then on top of that, I should also kind of feel like this is friendly space or not friendly space. And friendly space being space that I have good rep in, and unfriendly space being space I have bad rep in. And I think permitting itself adds an extra layer to that. Like you could be like, well, if it's like, at what level does this this group of people that I'm somewhat friends with trust me? And I think if it's a lawful system, giving you permits to do certain things that otherwise might not be allowed for other types of citizens is a way for that NPC group to extend trust, I think, and that creates, I think, some fun value, some gameplay maybe or whatever that you wouldn't otherwise be able to have. I don't know. It's just an idea.
Yeah.
Nightcub? Permits.
I mean, I'm not sure I can add much more.
It was his idea.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it was my idea. I'm pretty sure I heard somebody else say it before me. But it's just one of those things, like I said, I look for it mainly to, kind of going back to what I was talking about earlier, open up opportunities. I don't like the idea of just reputation gated gear. I like reputation gated opportunities, and a permit, to carry certain things or to have certain pieces of equipment and stuff like that also seems to make sense to me, to either be combined or, holistically part of that system. So yeah, I'm down for permitted items and stuff. We use it, and not only that, but it just makes sense because it's what we have here in the States. Like, just because I can go out and buy a gun from a reputable dealer, and I know this is dangerous, probably using this as an analogy, but bottom line is like, we have a permit system, for concealed carry, to own a firearm,
Right.
to take that firearm into public places and stuff like that. So it's not really much of a stretch for me. Maybe I'll use a little more gamified example. I shouldn't be, and me as a civilian, I should not be able to obtain military hardware, like high level electronics, state of the art style stuff. Like, and even in the, it would be something like, okay, if the military is giving you that, you're either like a private contractor who has gotten a really good bit of solid rep, with a given military or whatever, or, that makes sense. So it doesn't seem like it would be a bad thing to have in the game.
Think about just like, go for it.
I say an example. I used to be a security guard, and there is a security guard permit you have to get from the state of Tennessee. When I was in Tennessee, you have to apply. You have to go through a training program, and then you get an officially licensed ability to be a private security officer. And I got that through the company I was working for. And then I was talking with my my landlady at the time. We were in the apartment, and she said, "I got this other apartment that's been having problems. Can you just put on a uniform? I'll pay you for your uniform. Can you have the license? Can you go do it?" I was like, "Yeah, sure. I'll just go walk around and look busy for, a couple hours a day just to keep people scared away, And I got paid extra for it, but I had the licensure to back me up. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a licensure, but it's one of those things that it helps. And so I can see that kind of idea in Star Citizen, adding that as well. Like, for instance, a license to, we already have kind of permits for like land claims. You could have things like, you can see the permit system doesn't also have to be something specifically about games. It could be things like guild membership, like being part of the Rust Society or the Haulers Guild or whatever. Like those things can unlock more money, more missions, more locations, equal kind of permits, kind of thing. So you just say
exactly, and like. They already have NPCs that in certain areas that scan your ship all the time. What are they scanning for? They're scanning for certain types of like things that you might be carrying that are unlawful, but maybe they're unlawful to the normal person. But someone's got to transport these things. Like if the police raid a place and they find a whole bunch of drugs, they're not just going to leave them there. They're going to transport them somewhere, right? So, or like if the military is using high-end equipment that the average civilian can't use, I mean, someone's transporting that equipment for the military. It might be the military, but it also might be private contractors. So someone somewhere has to have the ability to do those kind of things. And if you permit, like maybe it's not even about using weapons in Star Citizen. Maybe it's about the right to transport them. Maybe there's like, if you get a permit for a certain area for Hurston, maybe you're allowed to transport like high-end weaponry for them from one location to another or something like that you might not otherwise. If you get scanned, they would be like, "Oh, you're in trouble. You can't have these weapons." But because you have a permit, they're like, "Oh, okay, on your way, you can carry these to one location to another." And honestly, that adds so much more gameplay because you could get the permit and then still be a pirate. And you could use the permit to smuggle like high-end weapons, maybe outside of that space.
Yeah.
And if you ever get caught, maybe you lose your permit and your rep, but like it'd
Yeah.
be kind of cool. I don't know. I think it adds complexity.
I don't like the idea of having permits be something that locks out gameplay but expands gameplay. So like I don't think you should ever have to have a permit to be a bounty hunter. But if you're a bounty hunter and you're with a bounty guild, then you might get higher reputation or higher payouts from like your bounty kills because it's like, oh, he's a licensed bounty hunter. He's gone through the systems. He has reputation, and that also may give you access to, like, as I think Nightcop, you talked about it, like now you can carry a stun gun, so you can go through Hurston security and be like, I'm a bounty hunter. I have my licensure. You can carry this license. You can go up and ambush a guy who's eating dinner and be like, cool, take him down because he managed to sneak through security or something, and now you've got the license to carry that, and that adds more. Advantage. It doesn't mean you can't bounty hunt. It just means that now you can go into Loreville with a stun gun. So
I think in order for the game to be
another
fun,
tactical option for me.
Yeah. We're gonna say
in order for the game to be fun, you have to have something to lose, and to a degree. And obviously, we have like LTI on our ships and all those kind of things. Like, probably won't really lose those. But like, if you work really hard for like a week to build up really great rep with a certain group, and now you're like able to get access to like transporting large quantities of guns for them that like might be expensive. There's something that stops you technically from not delivering those guns to the place that you've told them you're going to deliver, and maybe you just sell them on the black market. There should be a cost to that though, and maybe you sacrifice a week worth of work. But maybe it was worth you getting that like week worth of work to build a rep just so you can make a ton of money on this like one sting basically or something. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Yeah. The idea of making it getting certain things and reputation and locking or making it easier for you to do other things, but doesn't stop you from doing that in the first place. I like that idea because it makes that story. You are the best bounty hunter in this sector, or everyone trusts you because you've run more guns than anybody else. And so they're like, yeah, I'm going to go to you for that gun running, or that, you get the job for it. It becomes easier for you because you already do that job all the time. So, Yeah. All right. Next question comes from Northern Trooper, who asks, should there any reputation be attached to or earned with Arena Commander or Squadron 42? The few?
I believe that there's already an implication that you're going to get some base rep from Squadron 42. I thought like if you play the single player game and then you come into Star Citizen, you have like citizenship or something specific, right?
Yeah, there's definitely going to be some reputation holdover. I think it has to do with how well you perform in Squadron. So like, because I think they're going to do ranks where I don't know if it's going to be official ranks or not, but like, because you start off as lieutenant, so if you get like the high admiral rank at the end, you'll have higher reputation than you will if you are the just never advanced. Though I think that's also older idea, because I think the original idea was that you could progress and have like retire as a captain or something like that and get more. But I'm almost certain that there'll be some like rep bonuses for that.
I don't know how they're doing it, but they mentioned it a long time ago. I think back in the day that there was going to be some sort of rep transfer between the single player game. I think that adds some amount of value. I think that's kind of cool as long as it's done tactfully. I think most of the reps should really just come from playing Star Citizen, but there's some cool like maybe Easter egg things or different kinds of experiences you might have. And I think with things like Arena Commander, sure. But I think the kind of rep you should get from Arena Commander, if it does carry into the game, should be kind of similar to like the rep a UFC fighter might have, because they're good at UFC. Like, oh, that's the guy who's really good at fighting in a cage match or something. It's not like necessarily helping you with your rep in real like terms, but maybe you're kind of famous for being really good at it or something. I don't know.
I like the idea of it being an Easter egg. Kind of like if you get a special wild line, if you're pretty famous, if you have a pretty high rank in Arena Commander, it'd be like, hey, I know this guy. I fought him on Arena Commander before, because Arena Commander is supposed to be an in fiction video game. So it's like, oh, you're that guy from the leaderboards. Let's see if you're good in a real fight. Kind of.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I'd love that.
That's a little fun thing.
All right, so I'm gonna expand on that, but I guess I'm gonna kind of walk in a direction, but. One of the most exciting things, if you guys have watched the SCL on Friday, for me, was they talked about the idea of other players being able to be spectators in Arena Commander. And then not only that, but when they're spectating as like cameramen, that can be broadcast into the PU on like screens and stuff like that. Like that was the direction that they were trying to go. That was the technical design that they were walking around. And I was like, Oh my God, how huge would it be is if that's what they made, into like, like racing light. Uh what's the other big one that esports does, where they get content creators together and they dogfight over like a moon?
It's
Fight or
that
flights?
fight or
Fight or
flight. Yeah,
flights?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, how cool would it be if we got to that point where it's like, okay, let's, in game, we are spectating at Grimhex, watching, or on somebody's 890 yacht, watching the latest in Arena Commander things. And then I would still like there to be like the in game, racing events and all that kind of stuff. Cause that's almost like the elite crowd, it's like we have an esports,
Yeah.
in terms of Arena Commander and all that kind of stuff. But then you've got like the hardcore players and racers that are out there doing dogfights in the
Real
in the
consequence.
black. Yeah, yeah, with real consequence and stuff, especially once Death of a Spaceman is around. But it's like big money prizes because of the risk and stuff like that. And I think that would be incredibly amazing. And I think that's where reputation could easily transfer from Arena Commander into the game. But I would put it like it should be like a limit on it. Again, I think there would
Mhm.
be, or maybe just a different subset of reputation, but the idea of, okay, yeah, that person's popular in Arena Commander, but there's this other guy over here, who's doing, this is the real deal,
Mhm.
out in the black and stuff like that, where the consequences exist and all that kind of stuff. So I
Yeah.
love that idea, for reputation and Arena Commander transferring to some degree with the PU, and I like the idea that those two things become intertwined.
Um, I'm a big fan of the idea of reputation also coming from Squadron, because it gives people a reason to play Squadron and kind of experience
Oh
it.
wait,
No, it was Ring Commander and Squadron. This was the question.
It
okay,
also kind of
Yeah.
cool. I
links
was like, man,
the two universes together a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I like the idea of Arena Commander having some sort of reputation as well, even if it's just like an Easter egg kind of thing. But I know the one thing we know for sure that will happen is if you beat Squadron 42, you will have the ability to purchase an F8C, the civilian version of the Lightning, in game in Star Citizen. So it's just basically, it's kind of like when you beat an Arena Commander, you can beat the Vandal Swarm or the Pirate Swarm. It gives you, unlocks the ability for you to buy with real cash, like pirate versions and the Vandal. I think it was the Glaive at one point, or the Scythe at one point.
yeah.
But something like that, but with Squadron, it kind of makes sense for like in game. So because otherwise I think the idea is that it's the F8C is kind of like the F35. You're not exactly. Not a lot of people are going to be given access to that high-end military technology right off the bat. So, like an export version of the F-35. Next question comes from Northern Trooper, who asks, if reputation affects our path in Star Citizen and we change that path, should we be able to reset our reputation? I'm going to start off by saying no. Your actions have consequences, but you should still be able to get that reputation back to neutral fairly fast. That would be my thing. So
yeah, I think that it's just a living thing. I think that if you do a whole bunch of missions for like Ninetales or something, maybe reputation climbs, but maybe if you don't do it for like a month or two, maybe it slowly drops. Maybe it slowly climbs down to neutral if you don't engage with them. Or if you like work with their sworn enemy, maybe it goes down really fast. It's kind of a reputation. I would imagine is just kind of a gauge of what kind of gameplay loops are you currently playing, and how does that give you advantage and whatnot. So I don't know.
Micah?
I think I'm a big fan of long-term consequences. I guess I'm also a big fan of redemption arcs, but I'm very much of the mind redemption, or the destruction. Well, I don't know. I'm of two minds here. Redemption from like let's say pirate or ill uh ill-gotten gains, evildoer reputation. Like that takes a lot to come back from to regain trust, and I think it should. Summarily, though, good reputation is easy to destroy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those things. Like I don't know, depends on how much you want those to reflect real life. Because I kind of like the idea. It should be hard to come back from bad reputation. or a reputation with, irreputable folks, pun intended.
Mhm.
But I also like the idea that you should be, if you've built up a solid reputation on the right side of the law, you know, doing one crime can undo that pretty quickly. But I think you should be able to bounce back a little bit faster on either side of those reputations. If, say, you do a moment of good as a Ninetales player, I think you should be able to jump right back into Ninetales. One moment of good's not going to cost you too much with the Ninetales.
Yeah.
Similarly, like you accidentally shoot one security guard in a bunker, friendly fire moment, you know, uh, it shouldn't take you too much to come back from that. But,
Right. It should take some amount of time for sure, but I also don't want to limit gameplay loops necessarily, like, or force people to have multiple accounts just so they can be a pirate and then lawful. Like, you should be able to, like, oh, for a month or for 3 weeks or whatever, I'm going to play as a lawful character. And I feel like it would be harmful to the game maybe not to allow someone to be able to shift in the matter of weeks into like a different kind of gameplay loop. I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe that's just me.
I'm
I
with you on that.
weeks. I'm down with weeks. What I don't want is though, like, it only takes like 3 days to go from, lawful good to, chaotic evil. Nah.
I'm a big fan of
Or vice
Saturday
versa.
morning cartoon logic as well as epic story logic, where like how many stories. I think it's most prevalent in like anime, but it happens all over in like Western media as well. Like those epic stories of like the bad guy becoming the good guy at the end. The former
Yeah.
rival becoming the best friend sort of trope. I like that idea, and I think there's definitely
me
a
too.
there's definitely a
But
story
that takes work.
element. And that takes work. Yeah.
You gotta have the right story elements. It can't just swing,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think as I've always kind of looked at Star Citizen and even CIG is kind of used to promote this. It's like you tell your own story, and I'm always looked at Star Citizen as a storytelling device where you're playing a character, and because the gameplay itself is so woven into the story of the game, like it's really hard to talk about the game as a game rather than as like what people in the universe would call it. A quantum drive is a quantum drive.
Yeah.
Guns are guns. Like damage per second. All of these things will be things that people talk about in the universe because it's woven into the story and the narrative. That's the kind of appeal for a lot of people. People want to be Han Solo or Luke Skywalker or Jean-Luc Picard or whatever. They want to have those experiences, but they want to have them in their own ways. And I think that I like that idea of having it kind of no, you can't just go, I'm going to reset my reputation and start over again. It's like if you fell down that rabbit hole and you decided to make one bad decision after another, like there got to be consequences to that bad decision, and that bad decision is you're going to have to like pull out of it at some point. So,
Absolutely.
All right. Next question comes from Northern Trooper, who asks, in some games, the player can choose either money or an item or reputation as a reward. Should that be something added to when reputation is created? Nightcop, what do you think? Do you think you should be able to choose like an item over money?
Oh yeah, I'm all about choice, and it's funny. That's a great system, and it's worked in a lot of other games. And CIG is all about choice. They love the idea of choice, so I'm kind of surprised they haven't jumped on that bandwagon either. Yeah, I'd love that actually, if it was choice, because man, you find out real quickly that a lot of us are not all about the almighty AUEC. Sometimes it's a convenience factor. Like, if you offer me up a military, and they're readily available in shops still. The irony is though, if I did a certain, mercenary mission, and they're like, hey, the results of your actions, we reprocured this, grade A stealth drive and stuff like that. Even if I didn't want to use it at the time, I could then sell it, and then that would be the end game result idea. That would be an awesome thing, and I would love that actually for, choice for reputation and mission rewards and stuff. So I think that's a great idea. I love it. Hopefully soon.
Same question. Do you think that you should be able to choose items or like equipment or money in some options for like rewards for doing missions?
Yeah, absolutely. I also think you should take it a step further and maybe be able to like use your charm to like woo somebody from the mission to become a crew member or something, like, or
Okay.
like through NPC missions, you should be able to do all the things you need in the game to play the game should be able to be derived from the missions, I think, to some degree. So if you want to like recruit NPCs, the best way to do that should be to go do missions and then find cool NPCs that you like, that you can be like, hey, you were pretty good there, you want to join my crew or something like that, instead of just having to go onto some sort of like LinkedIn version of Star Citizen and recruit people that way. I think it would just be more involved, more immersive to do it in mission.
Yeah, I'm cool with that too. And I also like so I've been going back. It's a long story, but the short of short of this is that I've been watching a show called Spice and Wolf that I watched way back in the day. It's Economics the anime. It's great. It's amazing. I love it. It's not as boring as it sounds. But one of the things that the main character constantly gets into discussions with, because he's a trader, is do you want to get this in money or in credit or in resources when he's doing deals? And so he kind of juggles these different ideas. And I think that's a great example of something you could do with like Star Citizen, where if you're doing a mission for a Haulers Guild, like it's like we could pay you in money, or we can pay you in this Quantanium that we have, or in credit for us, so that you can then use that credit to purchase other things or to get access to other locations. Because I like that idea of having those different options to coming in. Is kind of like the different options for rewards, because you'll be surprised, and I think CIG underestimates just how many people are obsessed with the Vandal masks, with the CDF armor and that kind of stuff, because of how unique they are and cool they are. They're not unique. Anyone, like mass-produced equipment, effectively, but they're cool, and they're like a reminder of something you've done as well.
Yeah, I think that's what it boils down to. And a lot of people have talked about this, like we derive a lot of value from accomplishments in the game. And when there's a physical representation of that accomplishment, it makes it that much more special, So, AUEC is just, extra money in your bank account. So sometimes a measure of success is very much the object that you gain from that success. When it's got a physicalized attachment like that, a trophy, something that you can put in a persistent hab, hopefully one day, or maybe it is just a component on your ship or a special ship skin. It means that much more to us as players 90% of the time. So you give us the choice, if I'm hurting for money, I'm hurting for reputation, or I need, maybe it is like a choice of like, well, the boon actually in this decision scenario is, maybe I did make a mistake and I lost some rep, accidentally shot that guard in the bunker while I was executing a mission, little friendly fire moment, and I complete another mission for them. And they're like, hey, we can give you this piece of equipment, this trophy, this whatever, or we can give you AUAC, or you can, hey, you can pass on this bonus. But when you pass on that bonus, like you get a little bit of a rep bonus. They're like, no, you can keep it. It was the right thing to do kind of moment. And they're like, oh, good on you.
Yeah.
I like your style, kind of thing. Like, I like that idea. And I think that should definitely be a more prevalent aspect of the game with reputation and stuff. And it should come with that. Higher reputation equals more interesting choices, is also like tying it back to the rep idea. Like, a rank 1, low reputation mission is not going to award you such interesting choices as like rank 5, where it's like you could have this state-of-the-art piece of gear, or incredibly rare skin for your ship, or a bunch of money to do whatever you want or set yourself up with something, or it's a bigger, maybe it's a reputation boon with a ally organization, so that you jumpstart your rep with them based on your actions and stuff like that. Like, I love that idea too, so that you can keep the same tree essentially.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. I think what we all have said is yes, more please. And apparently, I'm Kaku is in chat, who's a designer at CIG, and apparently he's working on reputation. So hello.
You think that's how he says his handle?
I have no idea how he says his handle. I'm probably butchered it.
Yeah,
I would hope like Koaku or something like that.
I'm sure, but I'm going to butcher names because it's just what I do.
It's Elliot, by the way.
It's Elliot? That's Elliot?
That's Elliot
I'm going to call him.
Yeah, it's his system.
I'm going to say Kaku from now on. I'm just going to call him Kaku from now on. You butchered Astro. Don't forget this. You never remember me anyway, so it's okay.
Type it phonetically in chat, please, so that we don't fall into the same trap.
Okay, so, but I think the general rule of thumb is I think most of us are like, yes, more things, more variety things.
Oh, I did.
You got it right. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, coax.
So hopefully we can give you some feedback from chat and from us there. Monster Avi asks, opinion on if Rep might let a faction/company subsidize a ship purchase in game. Mining company helps you buy an Orion, but you sell order them cheaper. I like that too. That's options though, isn't it? I like that idea.
I think I was mentioning earlier about the idea of if you're good rep with Ninetales, you got access to black market stuff that might be cheaper or something. Yeah, why wouldn't that extend to ships potentially? It'd be kind of cool if they were kind of used or something though, maybe not new, used quirky, probably modded in slightly different ways that are not normal. So everyone's kind of random maybe and has its own character. Maybe a little bit of TLC needed. Could be cool.
Yeah. What do you think, Nightcob? Like the idea?
I feel like reputation gated ships is an interesting topic. I'm probably in a minority on this though. So I guess what I always thought, and this is way back when 2 years ago when I first started playing this game.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, didn't mean to date myself there. Within Star Citizen fandom,
you youngin'.
I know, right? So I always thought when you bought ships with real money, right, that were military stealth ships or even higher level haulers and stuff, the idea was that, through some, the story item would be through some windfall or some inheritance or whatever, when you start the game with your fresh character, they had the reputation necessary to, or maybe they bypassed the reputation necessary through one of those means to have that ship or collection of ships or what have you, call it whatever you want. But bottom line was your real money was bypassing not only the AUEC, but the rep system that you would need for ships. Because, it's like you talked about earlier, Paul, I don't know if, regardless of whether or not they sell them on the civilian market, should everybody be given the rights to buy a stealth bomber that can fire size 9 torpedoes and vaporize almost any sub-capital class ship in a moment? I don't think so. I think that should be something that's requires some reputation, or and you can still gamify that. Okay, are you high enough rank with the Ninetales? Well, turns out they just raided a UEE convoy and they had a Aegis Eclipse that was distortioned and is in pristine condition, and you pay the money, they'll sell it to you on the black market or whatever. But maybe the price is way different. But I don't know. I think that's still meaningful gameplay, and I don't feel like it steps necessarily on the toes of buying ships for in real life money. Some of us want that grind, and some people want to bypass it. Totally okay with that. We can all exist in the same universe, in my opinion, and I'm for that. For me, though, I like the idea that reputation goes with the money grind, and I love the idea that if depending on the circumstances, maybe I have boons in other areas of reputation. Maybe it's not that I just have reputation with CDF. Maybe I have reputation with Aegis. Maybe I get a discount on my Aegis Eclipse. Maybe I get a discount on any insurance claims on my Aegis Eclipse because they're willing to sell me more because of my reputation and stuff like that.
Yeah,
you'd have to
limit. You'd have to limit volume, otherwise it'd just be reselling going on probably in the game, and the whole price of the system would come down, right? Or or even the rep-gated ships is nothing stops them from doing the missions and then selling them or giving them to their friends in the org or something. But yeah, I like the idea overall. I think it would add complexity to the game and make it fun.
I'm also I'm a sucker for absolute 0 to hero runs. The idea that you could this is impossible and probably won't. I'd love to see it, but it's not going to happen. Which is sign a contract with Hurston Dynamics, so you have to work in that lifetime contract with Hurston, and you basically play Hurston's wage laborer, the RPG, and kind of see what you can do with it. That's not going to happen. But stuff like that, I could still see, like, you're a player, you don't have access to a mining ship, but you want to be a miner, so you go sign up with what is it called?
Misk or Argo or
or not even Misk or Argo. I mean, those could work.
Shubin?
Like Shubin, yeah. You go work for
Shubin.
Shubin as a contractor, where like they'll bring you aboard a ship, and because I like the idea of having players be able to work on multi-crew ships run by NPCs. So so players have a safe place where they can train how to be an engineer or a pilot or whatever.
Yeah.
And an advantage of that would be like, hey, you're working for Shubin, you're going to go work in a mole where you're just a mine operator, and they'll tell you to go from point A to point B, and you do missions with them. But as a result, you at the end of that mission chain, you can get a discounted prospector. They give you a prospector at the end of that kind of reputation chain. As like, hey, you've worked through it, here you go. But it's
a good idea.
You've earned it, and so effectively you're paying for a discounted ship by doing the missions, but you have to do the missions to gain that reputation. I like that idea as well, but that's kind of a more of a, like, that's such an in-depth system that I wouldn't expect something like that to happen for years if they were able to do something like that. But I'm not against it. All right. Next question comes from now the questions are coming in. Next question comes from M Walker 300, who asks, how much do you think accidental killing of security guards in bunkers should affect rep? I'm going to be controversial and say not that much. The reason why? Regeneration is a thing, even in lore. Like, yes, does it suck that you pop the security guard and it dies? Yes, but this isn't like real life where you that's a serious situation. It's the equivalent of an on-site accident because they just pop back into a regen somewhere, and it sucks. Yeah. It hits them, but it's part of the natural progression of that's part of the job to take it. And you probably take some rep hits because you just didn't hit right, you didn't aim right. But it's like, are you necessarily going to get fired if an accident happens and you caused some you injured another employee who you're working with? Not necessarily. You might get a reprimand. You may get fired, or you may get some like probation or something like that. But it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get fired right off the bat because you gave someone a cut because a box slipped. It's that kind of idea. And also, it's not fun because players are going to make mistakes, especially early on, and you don't want to punish them for early on mistakes that are easy to make. So.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think it could vary a bit between who you're doing the mission for. Maybe some missions are a little bit more particular. Maybe certain organizations have a rep where they're like, you definitely don't shoot the NPCs. But maybe as a whole, it's kind of like, maybe as a whole, it's more like forgiving. And it's like if you shoot a couple of friendly fire type things, you get to the end, you don't quite get as much good rep as you thought you otherwise would have, or you don't get as good of gear. Maybe if you do it perfectly and you don't,
they just fine you. They take a little bit out of your payout, like where it's like, hey, it was 15K, it's 10K now because you're paying the cost of that guard getting regened in his new kit.
Yeah,
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's a lead character you're playing with where if you shoot that character, you're like, oh yeah, that you're screwed. But if you shoot like the secondary characters, maybe it's not so bad. Anyways, go Nightcap.
You brought up. I was just thinking of I love the idea of like Hurston Dynamics, right? They're not typically very concerned about the health, safety, long-term, psychological well-being of their workers. You accidentally shoot one of their security guards, they're like, but like Crusaders, like, whoa, no, not cool. That's gonna cost. You didn't get any rep for this mission. Yeah. We don't, but maybe they don't. I think the big thing that people would really just stop liking to happen would be where they just immediately now turn around and start shooting you on sight. That's he walked in front of my gun while I was firing. That's not a reason for all 8 remaining security guards to start executing me in the bunker right now. It was an accident.
I agree.
You kill 2 or 3 of them, obviously that stacks quickly, and then not only that, but then the rep costs come. I would imagine not a linear rep cost, but maybe more of an exponential rep cost.
Yeah, if you kill all 8 NPCs that you're supposed to be fighting with, like maybe that's a pretty severe thing.
Yeah.
All right. Next question comes from Steve the Dancer, who asks, "What do you think What do you think that if you get arrested and instead of going to jail, you stand before a judge and given a mission to clear your name?" Nightcop, what do you think? like community service, as it were, instead of
community service. I like that idea. I know we've been talking about a lot about rep, and I've seen chat pop it more than a few times that people are worried about the systems getting too complex, too close to real. Just a reminder, right? They described this as a universe sim, not me. They did. So I'm just kind of working within that same framework. But I don't dislike that idea. But I think it could just be easily gamified into maybe you don't have that kind of specific mission, but maybe there's like a subset of rep missions, that missions that are less payout but more reputation. Like like some RPGs use like terms like hooding, or something like that, where it's like, don't expect a big payout on this mission because what you're mainly doing is, something that is more for the good of the community or the good of the system, and it's not a high reward mission in terms of money. It's not.
It's like
or gear.
Yeah.
It's like taking missions with like NGOs. It would be the equivalent of NGOs or like the Red Cross or stuff like that. You're doing missions for them, but you're not getting paid. You're just doing it for them, and as a result, you're getting better goodwill with all the other organizations that are nearby them.
Exactly. So if that was just like a subset of a type of mission, I think that's better than like where you have to like go to a judge and you have like some kind of weird law gameplay. I think it'd just be better. It's like, oh, did you cost yourself some rep? Making a bad decision. Okay, you're probably not going to earn a lot of money on missions and stuff like that on this subset of missions that you're doing, which is kind of like, I don't want to call them community service, but maybe they're just a different style of mission where it's like, hey, these missions are maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what a good example was. Give me a second to think about it, guys. I'll see if I can.
Right. Well, I like the idea of a little bit of kind of, maybe I don't like the idea of RPing through some sort of jury court case. I think that sounds tedious. But I do think that they're having options to like trade rep for jail time. Like, for example, like maybe you got caught in a mission as a pirate, you're doing a pirate mission and then they arrested you, and you can be like, well, you can serve, 30 minutes in jail, or you can rat out somebody. And if you rat out somebody to some, like whatever, maybe you don't serve jail time, but maybe your rep for that group drops, and so you can choose to like kind of maybe make some decisions in that regard. I don't know, who knows.
I got an example for you guys. I thought of one. Okay, just real quick. So like an example of like high risk high reward mission is like the style of bunkers that we have now, where you have to go in and guard a facility against multiple waves, and it's along the lines of a lot of NPCs coming at you, bullets flying. That you make a mistake and all of a sudden that's not the type of mission that you need to do to undo that mistake. Instead, what you need to do is escort duty. And maybe you're just escorting, maybe you're just sitting out there and your escort fighter as ship A goes from point X to point Y. And I would love it actually, even if like nothing happened.
Nothing happens.
Or the
you get the boring mission.
The equivalent of peeling potatoes.
Yeah, exactly. But it's you're sitting there in your fighter and you're like, it's for a good cause. It's for a good cause. Just to gain the rep back.
I gotta just do this.
Do my time.
It's like the equivalent of those actors doing PSAs because they got caught like drinking and driving. They're like, I'll do a PSA for free for like, don't smoke or, like fire safety. So I don't have to pay a fine. I like that idea. The ultimate gamer punishment escort mission.
And don't get me wrong, like it's funny people talk about it. Like I love the idea of escort missions, mainly for players though. I want somebody to interact with when I do it. But like, my job is long periods of boredom, followed by infrequent and occasional moments of really intense excitement. So I'm kind of broken in that's what I've gotten myself used to of what I want in the style of gameplay scenario and stuff like that. So, but I'm okay with that. I like that. But I imagine that would be, yes, somewhat of a punishment for other players. But at the same time, like you're still flying your ship around. And as long as there's still like a probability, like it turns into excitement. Yeah. And, maybe there's a rep boon too. Like if it's like, hey, this was supposed to be a quiet escort mission. And then all of a sudden a few Ninetales ships showed up because they thought it was easy prey. And then lo and behold, like you're the savior. And if you manage to fight them off, it's like, well, it was just going to be X rep. Now it is 3 times X rep.
Yeah. Yeah. So the variables increasing the chances. Yeah, I like that. I'm not a big fan of like do this instead of going into jail. I'm a fan of adding more options to jails. Like one of the things I really want to see is a suicide mission option where like you're given like less than lethal weapons and you're set up with every other prisoners. And you're like, your job is to go clear out this bunker for us. If you survive, you'll get more points to your freedom.
Yeah. You like a Suicide Squad style thing.
Yeah.
I'm down with that.
I'm down with like a Suicide Squad thing, or like it's similar. Yeah. Like, hey, you know, we're transporting high value prisoners. This is going. We're pretty sure it's going to be attacked. Your job is to be in this gunner and fight off the waves. And if you survive, then you have your freedom. Because you know, people who do action and like are pirates and FPS players, those are kind of missions they'd want to do, and giving them like stripping them of all of their good stuff, and they're just like, you've got a prison suit, and you have a turret, or you have like a stun pistol. Good luck. Like that's that kind of thing people would do just for fun. Like they'd get locked up so they could do those missions because they kind of a challenging sort of situation, like Dirty Dozen or Colonel Schaefer and the Last Chancers. That's that kind of idea.
I can see that.
All right, next question comes from M. Walker, who asks, do you think spending time in prison should improve your negative rep? I'm going to just jump on this and say yes, if you do missions for groups inside the prison. You know, work for the local crime boss who also happens to be locked up in that prison, you know, and boost your reputation. Like, it's like a negative version of what Nightcob was talking about, where like you're doing a mission where you're not going to get any credits, but you're going to get increased reputation with a specific crime syndicate by doing it. I like that idea. So instead of, it's the negative version of the positive loop. So what do you think, Nightcob?
I love that idea too. Totally agree. I would find it really interesting, by the way, if there was also, an option for maybe somebody that made a bad mistake, ended up in prison, to also earn good rep at the same time while they're in there by hampering, illegal activities or spying or collecting data on, the goings on of the, the really bad in the prison, stuff like that. So I like that idea too. If you can have it both ways, all the better.
Few.
Yeah, I think so. I think that it would be nice if you could find ways to reduce your sentence that aren't just working for the man. Like any government organization system has some amount of corruption probably in it, and so like maybe you could do like missions for these like corrupt kind of like piratey organizations or whatever they are, and they have someone on the inside who can like find a way to get you out earlier or something, and that way you can kind of choose your path a little bit more and build rep, but also get rewarded in lesser sentences potentially, not just mining for Hurston or whoever arrested you.
Next question, I'll start with you on this one, the few, from Emser Games, who asks, do you think reputation should be acquired automatically, or there need to be a way for what you're doing to be perceived and communicated? For example, what if you do a crime and no one witnesses it? Should it automatically affect your rep anyways?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Right now, I don't think it affects either way, right? In game, I think it's like you get rep from missions. You get law, like if you get caught legally or not, it's whether or not you get observed, right? Because I think they have those communication satellites or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
And if you disable those and commit crime, I think you're generally out scot-free, right? And I know the law isn't the same as reputation, but it does appear to be the intention of CIG to have an awareness factor into whether you get credit for things or not. So I think it's I believe it should be an awareness thing for the most part. How you build that into the gameplay, game mechanics, I'm not sure, but it would make the most sense, and I think it would be fun because it gives you an ability to do things in a more stealthy manner if you don't want the rep. Maybe you're a law-abiding citizen who and has good rep with Hurston, but you secretly want to be able to smuggle some stuff from Hurston and steal from them. So you should be able to have the option to try to do it without getting caught and not get rep for it.
Yeah, I think there definitely needs to be some method beyond just the all-seeing eye of the comms towers for you to actually gain reputation, positive or negative, or legal or illegal or whatever, for whoever. But I also think that a lot of people are concerned that like, oh, if I go into Pyro and I do nasty things, then I'm going to be wanted in the UE. And it's like, I don't think that's going to be the case. It's like, You're not, you're unless there's some way of pressing charges. There's a complicated system they could do where players who are attacked by other players have to like report it after they get regened, and they have to like have some sort of, recall or some sort of timer. There's lots of stuff, but they kind of already have that, which is press charges. If someone kills you, you can press charges. But if you don't have if you weren't in the comms array, I don't think you can press charges. So there's definitely
if it's
some aspects.
If it's the gamified aspect of it, what I like about that is like, you need evidence.
Yeah.
You don't just get to say like, well, that person shot me. I was there. They shot me in the face. And then you weren't in comm array range, so you don't have any, corroborating evidence to say, yeah, that's indeed happened. So it's, just turns into a he said, she said thing. So that's why they're just like, nah, sorry. Can't help you. You don't have any proof. You're just a regened body. You don't even have your gear on you. And you weren't within a comm array to, gather any evidence to support your story. So we're just going to go with, no, I'm sorry, we can't help you. And I'm okay with that. And that's the game. I mean, that's my logic lore behind just a gamified system where it's like, well, that will prevent, hopefully, or at least provide a system by which you can commit crimes and not suffer consequences. But it does require effort, and it requires you to pay attention to your surroundings and stuff. And I'm down with that. I'm fine with that system.
You see Kawaku's response?
Yes, I saw that.
I missed it.
And I would say this, Kawaku, I also had that same lawyer send me that same document. I'm not kidding, because I'm the person who does a lot of the like lore videos and stuff like that. And they wanted me to like look over all of the different stuff. So, it's a good read. It's good. Like they did a really good breakdown of like the laws that actually exist, and I think they're New Zealand or it's either Commonwealth or it's like Scotland or Ireland. I think it's New Zealand though. It's like he's like a lawyer from one of those places. It kind of breaks down the legal basis of these and where they were and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool. I've encouraged them to publish it, but I don't know if they wanted me to look at it because they wanted to see how it works in game. It's like, I don't know enough about the laws in game to know if that's true or not, but it's cool. Oh gosh, what was I going to say? I thought I saw something else from Kawaku who said something else that I was going to respond to.
I don't know, but everybody's attacking him for the copy of the law document. It's like,
I can respond back.
I've never
to them.
seen so many people excited to read a 100-page,
160-page, 160-page law document.
160, pardon me.
Yeah. It's basically like a novella.
Jesus. And you don't think I'm crazy for reading the DCS like Chuck's Guide stuff. Sorry, this is out to some of the people that I play games with, the 400-page manual on how to fly a Tomcat, and you're like, no, I want to read that law document on Star Citizen law.
So a side question, Night Cobb, if they had a full spec detailed manual on, say, like the Polaris or the Connie or like any of the ships in the game that you're interested in, with like how the engines function and the functionality of the quantum engine, would you read that Chuck's Guide, 50, 60, 100-page document on that ship?
Fuck yeah, I would. I eat that shit up, man. Sorry guys, like, I mean, what do you think I grew up on in the nuclear navy? Like, I just read tech manuals. I have so many tech manuals that it would, make a DCS player blush, man. Like, it is ridiculous. Hundreds upon hundreds of pages of, manuals on the reactor, the supporting electrical system. So if you do all that kind of stuff on a, fantasy spaceship that looks super cool, like if you did the Perseus, you know what you can charge me real money for easily? I'm a starter ship only guy, but you want to know what I'd buy easily? You're like, hey, this is the 100-page manual, on the Perseus and all of its supporting electrical engineering systems, even if they're all made up.
Yeah.
I don't care. I will buy that off you right now, CIG. You can sell me dozens of those, and I will not be buying real ships, but I will be buying your technical manuals. There you go.
Might be a niche customer base, but yeah.
I mean, it might be, but I also bought this, so I'm with you on that one. This is 40K's Imperial Guardsman handbook that has like.
Do you keep that on your coffee table?
I do. I keep it right next to me.
That's coffee table books, man.
Yeah.
Do you know how interesting those are when you go into somebody else's house and they have like a book? Like that's so much more interesting than, Better Home and Gardens, man. You walk in there and you're like, what is this? Okay.
Is this a full detailed manual of the or like the I think my wife has the technical document on the X-wing. Like the technical breakdown of that. It was like it's one of those. We don't have it on the coffee table right now. Right now it's the right now it's Jump Point because I want a Jump Point. So I have like the entire like volume 6 of the Jump Point on the coffee table. But
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm down. See, that's what you guys can sell me pretty easily. I like that stuff. Coffee table books, man. I love coffee table books. And if they're big design documents on things like X-Wings or the Perseus or the Polaris or whatever, yeah, that's sold. I'll buy that.
Apparently, Kawaku says they don't have enough. They don't even have that long of a manual on their in tools. And I'll have to tell you that Kawaku, have you talked with the narrative team? Talk with the writers team and ask them how much documentation they have. I guarantee you, it's like this many pages if they printed it out of just random tidbits about a dude who lived 400 years in the past of the universe, and they have like their birth, death, who they married, what school they went to, the thing that caused them. Like that's the amount of documentation they have is nuts. So I'm sure that they have some BS manual somewhere of how the electrical systems inside the Perseus functions.
Yeah, I'm down. Complain about the tools.
Yeah.
You can't complain about the tools. We were all banking on the hope of the tools saving you guys. All right. Faster planets, faster ships, You can't complain about the tools on somebody else's podcast. That's not good for them. I'm just kidding. You can do what you want, Elliot.
Ashhole asks, when do you think CIG will reduce the rewards for missions? UEC is meaningless now. You get too much, and there are no real costs, making rep the real currency. I'll ask you that question, Nightcob. When do you think they're going to start tuning that down?
Tuning down the AUC?
Yeah. So reputation versus UEC, like turning down the reputation and or UEC and making it more attached to rep. Of course, I'll answer. I'll read Elliot's answer. It's like they're working on that right now. But that's actually for the case for Kawaku. The to be very specific, this entire conversation is based off of the monthly report from the mission features team from last month, with a mention of the technical document that was being written about the reputation. That's where this whole thing spawned from. So, but yeah, Nightcap, when do you think do you think we'll see that change?
This is so weird to answer this question when literally the guy that's one of the project leads that's working on this.
He's working on it.
But I'm gonna theorize anyway.
Yes.
So if it were me, and I was in their shoes, what I'd be waiting to rebalance it primarily on is with their new modular system, right? What I would imagine is mission complexity. So right now, I don't feel like they've got quite the mission lineup that they want in terms of like the mid-tier to higher tier missions, where, the best you get right now for a mercenary mission, when you get up to rank 5 is now you get 4 waves instead of 3 waves in the bunker. That's not terribly exciting. That's not terribly more complex. But what I would imagine where they'd want to go eventually was more, features and tools become more mature, like the planetary nav mesh, AI being able to fire railguns and stuff like that. Okay, now a bunker mission, could just be, or the new UGFs, right? Like as these things come online, a level 5 mercenary contract is not just one where you go inside a bunker and you fight off like 4 waves of dudes that spawn in elevators and it just changes the number. Now it's a matter of the complexity of the mission is, hey, you're going to have to do potentially a hot drop into an already active fire zone, outside the bunker, where then you have to progress inside the bunker, potentially take back an area, and then, oh, by the way, now there's additional waves spawning, so maybe you had to leave, or incoming ships as reinforcements, so maybe you had to leave some of your team out there, at the front of the bunker or in the entry points. You kind of get what I'm saying there. Like that mission, based on the number of people that you might need to successfully do it, at a lower risk or whatever, the payout or the reputation boon or whatever really has to be balanced between, the time it would take, the risk to the player, the likelihood that you would need additional reinforcements. So, i.e., you're splitting the payout, and then a more advanced reputation system to account for other aspects of the reward system. I imagine, at least this is my theory, that they're waiting for some of those systems to come further online. So I don't know that that's what they're, and don't be wrong, I imagine there are half measures. I imagine there are like, okay, when we're looking at the new, Elliot's team showed off the new consignment missions. Those are more complex bunker missions. I like that idea. Well, that should have a much different payout, but it's also balanced by the fact that you're getting gear, potentially rare gear from their little, box creation machines that they had at like Security Port Korea and all that stuff like that. So I would imagine that, that some of those systems and some of those balancing can kind of occur as you go. But I think the mass balancing of the entire system is waiting on changes in the entire mission feature aspect of the game. I don't know. That's my thought.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
You're welcome.
Few, your thoughts. When do you think we're going to see the reduce of the rewards for UEC and kind of changing them over to like a rep and stuff like that? When do you think that's going to happen?
The when question, we don't answer when questions here.
I'll use the Jake Acapella, the Jake Bradley approach, which is they're going to do it on July 13th, 2023. That's when they're going to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Jake usually picks a date that's a couple of days earlier. He said, this is when it's going to happen. Like, when's Squadron 3 coming out? July 7th, 2023.
Yeah. But anyways, again, I'm a little rusty on certain modern versions of payouts and stuff like that. But from what I have experienced, I think the issue isn't so much, I think, the quantity of pay. Obviously, I want to see the rep system become more complex, obviously. But I think it has to do with money sinks. I think that we don't really know what your payout should or shouldn't be for missions because I don't think the money sinks are there yet. Right. So it's like if I'm going to go do a complex mission that might require missiles and, tons of ammo and maybe hiring a couple NPCs to go do it with me and I have to pay them. And, maybe my ship's going to get damaged, probably. Like maybe it won't blow up, but maybe I'll lose a wing or who knows. And then I'm looking at that mission payout. Maybe it's 100,000 UEC, but I'm like, I've got to pay 40,000 UEC to do the mission. What's the likelihood of me doing it successfully? Okay, if I do it successfully, I may make 60,000. Right. But if I fail the mission, I might lose 40,000. So I think that those money sinks make the payout different. And I don't think we're paying enough necessarily. I just don't think there's any consequence. And I don't think there's any money sinks to make the money worth anything. So I think that if I were going to focus first on how to balance those things, maybe it's not possible now because the economics of the game aren't there yet. But I would want to focus on what am I risking to do a mission and then kind of building a little bit, I think, of the money payout based on that risk, probably.
Yeah. I'm going to go with both y'all's answers and say that the issue is more all of the supporting systems rather than just like the missions. Because like missions are cool, they're great, but there is so many more feeder systems and systems that kind of branch off of those missions. Like if you want to change over from UEC to rewards that aren't UEC, what are those rewards? And how are you going to get those rewards? Like what's important to the player base? What are those rewards? And you have to be able to issue those rewards in the first place. And that system doesn't exist yet. Like the system they have is very basic. They need to kind of build a system that would allow for the issuing of armor or equipment or extra rep versus UEC, which as far as I know doesn't exist yet. So they would need to have the build the basic systems, and then they'd have to hook that basic system into their modular mission system, which in itself is and then make it work for different variables. That whole tool set doesn't exist, and in order for them to kind of focus on that, they need to get that tool set done. So until we have on top of that, like, reputation that they're working on right now, like reputation that has nothing to do with missions and more has to do with your actions outside of missions, killing Ninetales or Crusader security members and changing your reputation based off that. That's really what needs to happen in first before they can get into that. So I would still say it's a while. I wouldn't say that this is going to happen this year. Probably more, and I don't even know if something like that will happen next year. It's more of there needs to be a lot of other factors that come into there before they can start working on those things. So.
Yeah, I'll go for it.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think one of the biggest tests, and I'll warn him here right now in chat, I guess, kind of by proxy. I think one of the biggest tests that they're going to come under, right, is going to be how they handle bounty hunting. This bounty hunting V2, right? Bounty hunting V2 is going to change fundamentally the idea, of one way we looked at bounty hunting in the game. Because bounty hunting in the game right now is like weird, like lawful assassination, really more mercenary missions than anything, right? Mercenary missions is like, hey, just go smash and grab 4 guys' equipment and kit, because that's all you're really doing. Because, like you said, Paul, the regen system exists. You didn't capture them alive and put them in jail so they couldn't regen, and now they're actually stuck serving time. You just made their life, you set them back a little bit, but maybe smashing their equipment and setting them back is all you need to do as a mercenary. Anyway, when you do bounty hunting, there's an investigation, there's a tracking your target, there's a acquiring your target, and then not only that, but there's still the gameplay of, hey, it's not just capturing them, you've got to get them back to a bounty hunting station, security office, whatever, right? So there's a lot more time investment and a lot more activity investment in something like that. So it's a little bit, it's going to require a little bit more of the balancing of the payout. Otherwise people are just going to like switch to bunkers, because I hate to say it, but everybody does that AUEC per hour. Not everybody, but a lot of people, unfortunately engage in the AUEC per hour. But as long as the gameplay is engaging and there is still an appropriate reward attached to a bounty hunting mission, I think it'll encourage that gameplay. Even though some of that gameplay might not nearly be as exciting as other aspects of it, like dogfight. You track your bounty down and you engage them in space. Interesting and engaging combat-related gameplay. But maybe the tracking is moving through the comm system was not, and traveling or sitting in wait, was not necessarily the exciting part of the gameplay. But you're still chasing a high-end reward, high-end payout at the end of some kind that's going to reward you for your diligence and your time. So I look forward to that being kind of like the litmus test of how they're balancing rewards for more complex mission scenarios.
Yep. Kwaku is gone.
I got to step away from
how you really.
He's gone now.
Yeah.
You can
tell him how I really feel. Nah, they're doing great stuff. That team is. I see things coming out from that team, and there's a lot of hope. I was always looking for more complex scenarios and stuff like that. I'm very much a mercenary, combat-oriented player. And already it looks like they are invested in missions and making them more interesting and complex and increasing the variety. I think they're doing great work. I just still have thoughts on it. I'll be right back, guys. I'm sorry.
Go for it. You're good. Elliot is very passionate, and all those team members are very passionate. And they really care. And the fact that I said this earlier, like the fact that they interact with the community so closely, the fact that he showed up. I said he was something was going to happen, and just happened to magically appear from HC Vertigo's stream. It's like, yeah, because that proves that like why it feels like their things are going faster is because they're listening and getting feedback and stuff like that. And by the way, for those, I was looking for this. Those of you who are wondering, the guy who sent the 160 document, he posted it on Spectrum. It's right there. I looked through my emails to find it, and that's the one right there. I just posted in the chat.
Nice.
It's a PDF document you can download. You can check it out. I'm going to double check if this is the same one. It's 148 pages.
No way. He brought it in here. You got
no. I have it. I have it because he posted on Spectrum.
Oh wow. Like just now, he posted it on Spectrum.
No, he posted
Like
back
he
in
went on Spectrum
2020.
based on the. Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. This is the guy who
wow.
he reached out to me about it, and it was like he's 160 pages. Like, that sounds about right. And there's a summary too. Yeah. And TLDR.
Hey, all
system,
of you trying to bail in chat right now to go read that, you can read and listen at the same time. Right? It's possible to do.
I am chat. I am not going to do a full read through of this for you. Your audiobook format. Okay, I'm not doing that.
You'd be a great audiobook reader. You got a great voice, Paul.
He would. Solid point, by the way. We actually know that that's an empty threat. None of you can read because you're gaming. So you can say you're off to read that. That's not true, and that's why you're also asking Paul to do this.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Talking out of both sides of your mouth. We can see you. We see you.
Luke, so what I've been doing for the last couple of years now is I've been doing just reading the monthly reports live and posting it, and they're the most popular videos I put on my channel. People just listen to me and listen to me read with some commentary.
How have I not known about this? I would have all this material just to sit down and close my eyes and listen to you.
Because it's like a 30 minute to an hour and a half, like every single time. So there are, you know what, 24, 36 of these videos that go back. So it's like 36 hours. You can't, I can't read, but you feel threatened by my comments, my comms relay trolling cop.
I'm not threatened by his comms relay trolling. Never mind. I'll talk to him later, or her. I'm not sure. Them. I'll talk to them. Sorry.
All right. So next question comes from. We have two more questions and we're done. Monster Avi asks opinion on if you would if it would be rarity or rep for ships with inflated costs, aka ship taxes on ships like the Prowler or the C2 versus A2. So opinion on ship if it taxes? Would be. So I think what he's saying is the opinion on if it would be rarity or rep for ships with inflated costs. So there are some ships which are more expensive because they're supposed to. The question is, should they be because they're rare or because they're for reputation? Like the idea that your average person can walk out and buy an A2 is kind of bonkers. It's like, yes, I would like to buy a B-52 bomber, sir, Mr. Uncle Sam, here is the money. Thank you. Please load up my nuclear missiles and nuclear bombs into the bomb bay, and I will be off. You know, kind of absolutely bonkers to think that idea. So the question is, should it be like a rarity that you just don't see a lot of these, or should it be more of a rep-based thing that kind of prevents people from purchasing those? What do you think, Luke?
I don't see how they're decoupled from each other. I think making it a rep thing makes it rare. I mean, a rarity is a state of being, and the rep-based gating is a method of making it rare. Like there are other ways to make it rare. You can make it rare by making it super expensive to buy. You can make it rare by making it super expensive to operate. You can make it rare by making the components that you need to buy and maintain the system gated behind various things. So I don't think that bombers are going to be rare necessarily. Because I mean, this is a combat-y kind of MMO game. You're not going to like remove all the combat ships from the game for people to play. But I could see certain types of bigger ship gameplay loops or super powerful, like components and things like that potentially being purposefully made rare through mechanics such as rep gating. Yeah.
Okay. Nightcap.
Yeah, I'm with him. I would essentially look at it as like a triangle. So each leg of the triangle, right? If you put the availability of a ship on the inside of the triangle, it's either you have to pay a lot of money, you have to have really good rep with the distributor or somebody that can make it available to you, or the ship is commonplace. So it's not it's not a rare ship. It's an Avenger Titan or whatever, something commonly available. So if you just look at it as like, okay, well, as long as you're satisfying the legs of the triangle and their combination to make the triangle in some way, shape, or form, the ship is available to you, and they're all integrated. So it's either I've got enough money, enough AUEC that all things are available to me, because I'm rich and therefore powerful and able to, grease the right hands with egregious amounts of cash. I can have things that normally would be available to me, or I have enough reputation and I have the right connections. Therefore, that piece of gear that it may be rare is available to me, or it's just a commonplace item. And I think that's just a standard system by which, you would build a universe. And it just makes sense to me that those things are intertwined.
I'm agree with both of you because like I don't think I can make it any better than what y'all have said. So yes, what they said.
Paul, what are you doing here? What are you contributing to the conversation?
I'm the
Paul
moderator.
Brings people together. He's a people person. All right.
I am.
He doesn't have to justify his job to us.
What did you call me, Night Cobb? I'm like the like there was some like I'm the matchmaker.
You're the matchmaker. You're the Star Citizen matchmaker.
You know.
Well, hello
there. Yeah.
All right. Zal Official asks, you guys think that law-abiding players, you guys think that law-abiding players should be rewarded, High Rep Crusader, to deliver drugs from other players into SPK for confiscation, in a perfect world where doing criminality has penalties with security companies? The idea of confiscating drugs and transporting them? Yeah, why not? I'd also argue that you should have transport missions for prisoners. Like you should be able to be, if you have a high enough reputation, you could like throw a couple of prison pods onto your ship and use and become a prison, transport for a day. Well, yeah, why not? Add it up a little bit more spice.
If you have that rep, you could land at a prison and then have your secret prison friend who was locked up sneak onto your prison transport and you can help.
Listen, that's a story I want to see. All right, like the guy whose best friend is locked up in prison, is doing a prison break, and so he orchestrates a way that he can transport prisoners to a prison, so that he can then pick up his friend who's breaking out and get out at the right time. That's a story I want to see told. All right, what do you think, Nick?
I hate to do this, Paul. Can you just ask the question one more time? Because
the question is, do you think law-abiding players should be rewarded to deliver drugs from other players to SPK for confiscation? So the idea is
absolutely. Yeah, never mind. Sorry. Yes, the answer is just easily yes.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Absolutely.
There should definitely be yin and yangs. There should be things that law-abiding players can do that unlawful can, and vice versa. There should be that kind of nice little in between zones, like where you have.
Look, I took drugs off the street after killing, never-do-wells. All right, I deserve extra reward. That's what it's saying.
Yeah.
As a corrections officer.
Look, I could have just sold it back to the criminals. I brought it to you guys. All right. Feel like I deserve a little something. Come on.
Somebody in chat says, as a corrections officer, I find the term secret prison friend amusing.
I don't know where that came from.
The few, your opinion on this? Should we allow law-abiding players to be able to do things like take, drugs from other players and confiscate them and get reputation or money for them?
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, anybody can do that, right? It's not a matter of can. It's the different penalties and reward structures for doing it at different rep levels, right? Because I mean, a pirate can take drugs off of any ship they want to and go take them to wherever they want to. They could deliver them to the government if they want to. Obviously, how they build that into the system for future, I believe if you build enough rep with a certain area or zone, like Hurston, for example, you might be able to get a standing contract to police the area at certain levels, and at that point, anything that you confiscate in that kind of area of control potentially should go towards increased rep for that particular license or permit or request that they've given you. Yeah, it makes sense. It adds a lot of complexity to the game, and it adds a very kind of specific experience, and I think it would be fun. I just don't know how they would exactly do it, but
yeah. All right, that was the last question for today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for Night Cobb and the Few for joining us. Make sure you check out Armchair Admirals and Generals to find Night Cobb. Of course, you can find him here as well when he comes onto the captain's table. And of course, Luke, aka the Few, you can find him on Sundays and Wednesdays, sometimes Wednesdays, at twitch.tv/thefew. So thank you for joining. And of course, as always, make sure you're hitting that like button, subscribing, and commenting down below your own thoughts and your own questions. I'll do my best to kind of read through them and answer them as best I can. And come on, join us live on twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, youtube.com/TheAstroPubLive on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. And like I say every time, Hope to see you someday in the black.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
Discussion and stuff. This is one of my favorite parts about coming on your show.
It's the Hot
Yeah.
Mic After Show.